In this video, I'm going to give an overview of what makes a logical fallacy. Now, before you can understand what a logical fallacy is, you need to understand what makes a strong argument. And you might remember this from your Writing 1 class. But there are three main elements to an argument. One is your claim. Second is the reasons as to why that claim is true. And third is the assumption. This is the part that must be true for the argument to make sense. And the assumption is not always explicitly stated within the argument itself. This is something that is done on the part of the audience. When they see that the reason and the claim add up, the assumption that they make makes sense. Much like this puzzle piece fits into the puzzle correctly, all the pieces would fall into place and make a clear picture to the audience that they understand. So let's look at an example of a logical argument. Pretend this is a thesis to a longer essay. According to numerous years-long scientific studies, our planet may look vastly different by 2050 because of climate change. So our conclusion here is that our planet will look different by 2050. The reason is climate change. The assumption, again, this is not explicitly stated within this claim, but rising ocean levels and massive wildfires, which are both being caused by climate change, will affect our coastlines and forests. And we do see this actually happening. If you watch the news or pay attention on social media, we see every day something new is happening somewhere on our planet, and the direct reason is something that is affected by climate change. But also in my argument, I cite that there are scientific studies. So if this is a longer essay, obviously I'm going to go more into depth of what those studies are and show how they're credible, their ethos. I also do not talk in absolutes. I use the word may. If you remember from Writing 1, you don't want to talk in absolutes in your thesis or your claim. You want to use words like may or possibly because you're just presenting a possibility. All of the reasoning that you give, the evidence, that logos, that's what the audience, your readers, what have you, will look at and come to their own conclusion, and it will make sense to them. So if all of this is sound, if your reason and your claim add up, it will make that comprehensive puzzle picture that people can see and understand, and it will make sense. Now, a logical fallacy, however, is an incorrect conclusion because there is a flaw in the reasoning. And often this is when the assumption, again, that unwritten thing, when people try to link that evidence to your claim, it breaks down. Much like this puzzle piece is not fitting, your evidence or your reasons are not fitting with the claim. And this is when people will see that there is a flaw in your argument. And this is what we call a logical fallacy. Let's look at some examples of logical fallacies. This first one, I am healthy now because I lost a lot of weight. The claim is I am now healthy. The reason I lost weight. The assumption that whoever's making this claim is hoping the audience will make is that losing weight automatically makes one healthy. But is this true? No, it is not. So let's look at some very problematic ways that people could lose weight that are the opposite of healthy. If you are impoverished and you can't afford food, if you're in a hostage situation, or maybe stranded on a deserted island and you don't have access to food, that's not a healthy way to lose weight. If you've ever seen the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, he actually lost weight for that role to the point where he became unhealthy, and it was actually dangerous for him. So even under a supervised medical weight loss program, it was still very dangerous for him to lose that weight. Other things, health problems, underlying health problems that you might have, medication that you might have that causes you to lose weight, that's not going to be a healthy way to do that. Although it may sound funny, something like a tapeworm or an other parasite, which is actually a problem in many parts of the world and even here in the US, especially among children. When you have a parasite like that and it takes all your nutrients away and you lose weight, obviously not healthy. Another dangerous way that people lose weight, um, fad diets. We see a new one every other week. Excessive exercise, dangerous weight loss supplements, all of these things that are constantly being pushed on us because we do have that message that losing weight makes you healthy. Um, People take this to the extreme, and sometimes they will lose a lot of weight and are actually way more unhealthy when they are done because of how they lost that weight. I have weight loss surgery on here. Weight loss surgery in itself is not dangerous and it's not a bad way to lose weight, especially if someone has some kind of condition that they can't lose weight on their own or it's a very emergent um, health issue. But the weight loss surgery itself does not cause you to get healthy. It gives you a boost and it helps you kind of get back on track, but in itself is not necessarily make you healthy. You still have to do a lot of work after that surgery. So as we can see, that claim falls apart when you really look at it. Now, if you reframe it and say, I'm healthier now because I'm no longer at risk for diabetes or my joints don't hurt as much and I'm able to walk and do more healthy things, that would be a logical claim. That would make sense. Let's look at a second example. Barry Bonds is the greatest player in baseball history because he hit more home runs in his career than anyone else. Our claim is that he is the greatest baseball player ever. Why? Because he hit more home runs than anyone else. The assumption here is that home runs are the measurement of greatness in baseball. Is that true? Again, no, because there's so much more to playing baseball. You have to be a good outfielder. You have to be able to catch and throw the ball accurately. You have to be able to run quickly. Not everybody is a home run hitter. A lot of people have one or two base hits and still are considered really great baseball players because they can run fast and they can steal bases. So all of those different skills go into making a cohesive, good baseball player. So again, we could amend this and say he's one of the greatest home run hitters, but to say he's the greatest of all time, that's a bit of a stretch. And when, especially if you're someone like me who's a little bit of a baseball nerd, and I know what goes into being a good baseball player, it falls apart because this does not make logical sense. Okay, one last example. And this one's kind of funny, but we've all heard somebody say this, right? Older person in your life, grandpa, grandma, what have you. My knee hurts. That means it will rain today. The claim is that it's going to rain because the knee hurts. The assumption is that rain makes my knee hurt and my knee only hurts when it rains. Now, is this true? Obviously not. If you have arthritis or some kind of injury in a joint, it's going to hurt other times than just when it rains. It may hurt worse when it rains because barometric pressure, humidity, what have you. However, if somebody says this and I look outside, there's not a cloud in the sky, I look at the forecast, zero chance of precipitation, then we know that this is an illogical claim. And as funny as it sounds, and this is a very simplistic example, it's a good example of how a logical fallacy works. This person may believe it with all their heart, and it may be true that it does hurt worse, but you can't use that, as a weather forecast. Now, why are we talking about logical fallacies? Why are they important? Well, just as it's vital for you to know how to present a strong, well thought out, reasonable argument, it's also important that you know how to recognize a logical fallacy or a false argument. One, it helps you in this class and any other class where you have to do a research assignment and you're evaluating sources and information. If it doesn't add up, if it doesn't make sense, if the ethos or that credibility is not there, you know that you need to move on to a different source so that your argument makes sense. When you're communicating with others, it helps you to avoid presenting a logical fallacy. Kind of makes you stop and think before you speak. Am I making sense? Do I have a clear reason as to why I'm making this argument or claim? But it also helps you recognize when a logical fallacy might be being presented to you. Maybe inadvertent, but you can say, hey, that reasoning is flawed. And instead of just arguing back and forth, you can be the voice of reason and explain why it doesn't make sense. Thirdly, it helps you when you're making crucial decisions, especially in political spheres. When you have a political candidate making claims, or you have certain bills that are being put on a ballot, instead of just going with the flow, remember from English 101 or my English 101 class, when I talk about critical thinking, you don't want to just go with the flow or vote a certain way or think a certain way or act a certain way just because that's what's expected or that's what everyone else is doing. It gives you the ability and the education to make solid decisions based on good evidence rather than just falling for logical fallacies. Because unfortunately for us, this is a very, very popular political tool. Logical fallacies are used on us constantly, which we will talk about in a future video. So I hope this helps. This can be kind of a tricky concept if you're not really understanding it, or sometimes even that chapter that I gave you to read can be a little overwhelming. But this is a very simple breakdown of how logical fallacies work and how you can recognize them.